Hello guys, have you ever wondered how JavaScript knows what to execute first, where variables are stored, and how functions remember things? So, for that, we have to understand execution context, which is a very important topic in JavaScript. And if you master it, then a lot of interview questions can be understood or solved. So, let's begin. Before we start, I just want you to look into this code. It's a very simple code. uh, we have declared a variable a whose value has been given 5, and there is a function cube which takes a variable and returns a cube of it, and then we are calling cube1 cube2 with the value of 5, with value of a and value of 3, and then we are console logging this. Okay, so we have to keep this in mind. This example will help us understand execution context. So what is execution context? Whenever JavaScript engine scans a script file, it makes an environment, a place where it will run the code, allocate memory to the variables, and that variable, that environment is known as execution context. Okay, so execution context is an environment in which JavaScript code is evaluated and executed. So it's a environment. I will make you understand with the help of an example. But before that, we have to understand few things. Execution context are of two types. Types of execution context. The first type is global. Global execution context. And another one is, this one is the function execution context. Function execution. It will be easy. Okay. So there are two types of execution contexts: global execution context and the function. The global execution context is created whenever JavaScript first the JavaScript file first runs. So whenever you have written a JavaScript and it goes for compilation, so whenever it has been encountered, a global that is environment context has been created. It's like this environment where all the code is written and it will be evaluated and executed. Similarly, there is another easy execution context which is known as functional. It means whenever there is a function, suppose there is a function code written here, sorry, this is a function code written here. So whenever JavaScript compiler encountered that, it creates another environment for that particular function to run and execute. Okay, so let's say there are three different functions. So for each function, the JavaScript engine will create a different environment. Okay, so these are the types of execution context. Now what are the phase of execution context? Similarly, there are two phases. One is known as the creation phase and another is known as the execution phase. So what is creation phase? In this phase, JavaScript engine creates the context, we know, and set up the environment and look into the variables, which variables are there. It just scans through that, which functions are there, which variables are there. In the execution phase, it runs through the file line by line and executes the code. Okay, so I know it is a bit confusing till now, but I will make you understand with the help of a code, and it will be thoroughly clear to you. For that, I will be needing this code. Let's copy it and I paste it. Okay, so we have entered the creation phase. This is the creation phase. Okay. Now, in this creation phase, we know that whenever we are in the creation phase and we have encountered a script, execution context gets created. So let's create an execution context. How to do that? Execution context has two parts. Okay. Um, yeah. So each execution context has two parts. One is memory and another is code. Okay. So what happens in memory and the code? The memory part is where the all the variables are stored, all the functions are stored. Okay. But and in the code part, the whole code get executed. So in the creation phase, what happens is the JavaScript scans the entire that source code. It creates a global object that is a window in case of browser and global in case of Node.js. It sets up the memory for storing the variables and functions. It sets up variables with the values as undefined and function references. So what does it mean? So in creation phase, we start the scanning. We first encounter that there is a variable a. We don't, we just in the memory we know that there is a variable a and it is undefined because we don't know its value yet. Next, we encountered that there is a function cube. So we create a cube, a reference for the cube to be called. Okay. Then we've encountered two more variables, that is cube underscore 1, and they are undefined. And there is cube underscore 2, which is undefined. So this happens in the memory phase. Execution context has been created and all the variables are scanned out and its values has been stored as undefined and the function reference has been stored. Okay, so next comes the execution phase. Let's copy this whole part. Copy. Now we are in the execution phase. So what I have told you that in execution phase, the compiler scans each line of the code and runs it. So what happens in the execution code? In this phase, JavaScript engine goes through line by line from top to bottom, and the first thing that it encounters is that a having variable value 5. So now it removes undefined and its value has been stored as 5. Okay. So if you understand is good and thoroughly, then you can uh, tackle the problem hoisting with that. Why it is undefined? Because we have not declared it, still it is undefined. So we will get to know that in the next videos. So first, a is having the value of 5. Second is a function call, but a function declaration, but it hasn't been called, so it will not get executed. The next code after this will get this one. Now the q1 is called. Okay, q1, and for q1 to be executed, then we have to call the q function, and q function is a separate function, and I have told you that if it is not global, then there is a functional execution context. So now another execution context get created. So the this one is the global execution context. For this function, there is another execution context created in, and that is known as functional execution context. Okay. Similarly, it will have two parts. So now this is the functional execution context. Functional execution context of function cube. Now, if you run this code, then there is no variable here, so the memory is empty because it stores the variable, and the code get executed, and we know that the value, and if you just the value of an cube of that function, a cube of that value has returned. So initially q1, for q1 it has been called. Okay, so this one called for q1, this one called for q1. Once the value has been computed in the code section, it get returns, and once it returns, the it comes back to here. Now we can get the value of q1 as 125. Okay, this is sorted, and once it has been calculated, this execution context get erased from the memory. It gets erased from the memory. Okay, now what happens is q1 sorted. Now q2, again q function gets called, so again a functional execution context get created. Okay, and again we calculate the cube of value 3, that is 27. It for this, now we erase this. Now for this one, it gets created. Once it gets everything gets calculated here, the the execution part returns back to the main execution context, the global execution context, and we get the value of cube 3, which is 27. And this execution context got deleted from the memory, the whole part. Let's say deleted. Okay, now with the power comes back to the global execution context. it returns sorry, the console log dot is run in the code section, or the console dot is run, and after that everything of this code got executed. Once that is done, the global context also get deleted from the memory, and we run out of the code. So that happens. So now the question is how we keep track of which execution context we are running. For that, there is a concept called call stack that I will discuss in the next next video, but I will give you a brief view what happens. This is a stack, okay? So when the JavaScript get um, started, the script file gets started, then the first thing that gets stored here is the global execution context, GEC. Okay, now, and the power here is on the GEC. First, for the first cube A, that new execution context get formed and it gets inserted into the stack. This is functional execution context, and the power moves to FSC because it is getting executed. Once that function get totally executed and it's done, then we remove this function get removed, and the power return backs to the global execution context. Same happened with cube called again. So we store everything in this call stack, and I will discuss this in details in the next video. Okay, so that is what we want to tell you about execution context. And in conclusion, I want to say that JavaScript execution context is a crucial part of understanding how JavaScript works behind the scenes, how the power get transferred from global execution context to the functional execution context, and it may happen that if there can be another functional call inside a functional call, then it will be another execution context, okay, inside that function. So it can be a long chain. So we will discuss that in details in the upcoming videos. So that is for this video. I hope you liked it and you gained some knowledge about this, and it will help you in interviews, questions, and thinking. Most important is how know how it works behind it. That's what we want to do. So that is all for this video. Thank you. I hope you like it. If you like it, please hit the like button and subscribe this channel.